Dragon's Gambit, the complete series. China's grand ambition, the chess pieces, the players, and the world at stake. Strategic Intelligence Analysis June 2026. Based on ODNI Annual Threat Assessment, CSIS Wargames, Bloomberg Economics, BAS, IMF, Open Source Intelligence. Episode 3, The Grand Chessboard. Every piece has a purpose, how China plays the world. In ancient Chinese strategy, the game of Go teaches one thing above all else. You don't win by attacking directly. You win by surrounding. By the time your opponent realizes the trap, every escape route is already closed. China has been playing Go with the global financial system for 30 years. With North Korea. With Cambodia. With Russia. With Iran. With the Arab world. With the rare earth supply chain. None of these are random relationships. Every single one is a piece on a board, positioned deliberately, moved patiently, designed to close off American options one by one. Today, we map the entire board. Every piece. Every purpose. Every vulnerability. And then we ask the question that Washington's most serious analysts are wrestling with right now. Can we use China's own board against them? This is Dragon's Gambit, Episode 3. The Grand Chessboard. Let's begin. Part 4. The scenarios, what China needs to do to become the center of the world. The distance between China's ambition and China's reality is measured in time, money, and political will, all of which are running short. The Xi Vision, National Rejuvenation, by 2049. Xi Jinping's stated objective is the achievement of the Chinese dream, the complete restoration of China's historical centrality in global affairs, by 2049, the centenary of the People's Republic. This encompasses economic, the world's largest economy by nominal GDP. Technological, leadership in all critical technology domains. Military, the world's most capable armed forces. Political, a multipolar world in which Chinese-style governance is treated as a legitimate alternative model. Territorial, the reunification of Taiwan and undisputed sovereignty over claimed maritime territories. The path from here to there runs through specific challenges that Xi's China is currently struggling to navigate. Scenario A, the patient ascent, probability, 35% timeline, 2026 to 2045. Conditions, China successfully manages its domestic economic challenges, property sector stabilization, local government debt restructuring, private sector confidence restoration, while continuing to build alternative financial infrastructure and technological capability. Taiwan remains unresolved but unprovoked. The PLA purges are eventually absorbed and replaced with competent new leadership. De-dollarization proceeds gradually. What China needs to execute this? Economic stabilization within 2 to 3 years. The property sector collapse, local government debt, and youth unemployment cannot be deferred indefinitely. The reform package required includes significant local government debt restructuring, on the order of 10 to 20 trillion yuan, credible property market floor setting, and sufficient fiscal stimulus to absorb the employment shock. Political reform, the one China cannot afford. Full yuan convertibility requires abandoning capital controls. Rule of law for foreign investors requires constraining party intervention in commercial disputes. These reforms are economically necessary for yuan internationalization but are politically incompatible with Xi's consolidation of party control. This is the fundamental contradiction that limits the scenario's probability. Technological self-sufficiency in semiconductors. Without advanced domestic chip production, currently at least 1 to 2 generations behind the leading edge, China remains dependent on foreign technology for the AI, defense, and advanced manufacturing capabilities that the rejuvenation vision requires. SMIC's progress is real but insufficient. Probability assessment, possible but constrained by the political reform paradox. She cannot make the political concessions that economic necessity demands without undermining the power consolidation that defines his project. Scenario B, the Taiwan Gambit, probability, 25% timeline, 2027 to 2032. Conditions, she concludes, for reasons of internal political dynamics or perception of closing windows, that the Taiwan question must be resolved on an accelerated timeline. A gray zone escalation campaign, not full invasion, is prosecuted to force political concessions. What China would need: a PLA that can execute coherently. The current post-purge leadership situation is the primary impediment. A blockade-capable force requires joint operations coordination, Navy, Air Force, missile forces, Coast Guard, and maritime militia, that is significantly harder with a hollowed-out command structure. Recovery from the Zhang Youxia purge requires years, not months. An economic buffer. China's foreign exchange reserves of $3.4 trillion provide approximately 18 to 24 months of import cover under normal conditions. Under a severe sanctions scenario, this runway shrinks dramatically. The domestic economic fragility created by the property collapse makes a conflict scenario materially worse for China's resilience. Miscalculation management. The most dangerous element of any Taiwan scenario is not deliberate escalation but inadvertent escalation, a PLA naval vessel colliding with an American warship, a missile test landing closer to Taiwan than intended, a cyber operation triggering an unexpected response. With degraded command quality, the probability of these accidents increases. CSIS Wargame findings, 26 iterations, 2026. In the overwhelming majority of scenarios, China does not achieve its political objectives against a Taiwan defended asymmetrically and supported by the United States and Japan. Chinese losses in a full invasion scenario include approximately 90% of amphibious assault forces and dozens of capital ships. Taiwan remains effectively independent in most runs. Scenario C, the economic collapse and internal fracture, probability, 15% timeline, 2026 to 2030. Conditions, the structural economic problems, local government debt, property sector, youth unemployment, private sector retreat, compound rather than stabilize. The purge of competent economic and military advisors leaves decision-making in the hands of loyalists who lack the technical expertise to navigate the crisis. Internal instability forces Xi to prioritize domestic consolidation over external ambition. Indicators to watch. Youth unemployment remaining above 15% for more than 24 months is historically associated with significant social instability in middle-income countries. China's current figures have been sustained for over 2 years. Local government fiscal distress, visible in delayed civil servant salary payments, infrastructure project stoppages, and social service reductions in lower-tier cities, is already creating friction at the subnational level. Private sector investment, which drives the majority of Chinese employment and innovation, has been in sustained decline since the Common Prosperity Campaign. Without its recovery, the growth rates required to absorb annual labor market entrants are not achievable. Strategic implication for Washington: this scenario creates the largest opportunity for American policy influence, not through confrontation, but through the deliberate maintenance of economic pressure that accelerates the internal contradictions, combined with the offer of partial normalization as an incentive for Chinese policy moderation. The historic opening is not inevitably what this scenario produces, but it is what skillful American policy could potentially extract from it. Scenario D, the global center achieved, probability, 10% timeline, 2035 to 2049. Conditions: China navigates all of the above: economic reform, technological self-sufficiency, Taiwan resolution without catastrophic war, and sustained alternative financial architecture construction, to emerge as the undisputed center of global economic gravity. What this requires, honestly assessed. The scenario requires China to accomplish something that no authoritarian state has accomplished in the modern era: sustain the innovation capacity and institutional quality required for technological and economic leadership while maintaining comprehensive political control. The historical record on this is not encouraging. The Soviet Union failed at it. Japan's managed capitalism showed its limits. The creative destruction that drives sustained technological leadership has, historically, required a degree of political openness that the Chinese Communist Party has explicitly rejected. This does not mean China cannot be the world's largest economy; it probably will be. It does not mean China cannot be a great power; it already is. What it means is that the specific vision of Chinese global centrality that Xi's rejuvenation implies, a world organized around Chinese rules, values, and financial infrastructure, remains constrained by the political choices that she has made. Conclusion: 10 things to understand. 1. China's monetary strategy is not about replacing the dollar, it is about building the infrastructure to survive being cut off from it. The 2022 Russian sanctions freeze was the catalytic event that turned a long-term aspiration into an urgent construction project. 2. Every Chinese proxy relationship serves a specific purpose. Russia provides energy, military knowledge, and European distraction. North Korea provides sanctions evasion infrastructure and crisis on demand. Cambodia provides ASEAN vetoes and naval positioning. Iran provides discounted energy, petro-yuan precedent, and Hormuz leverage. These are not accidents or ideology, they are deliberate architecture. 3. The PLA purges are the most important intelligence development of the decade. The removal of Zhang Youxia, Xi's childhood friend, the PLA's only officer with real combat experience, the most trusted military figure in China, is not a routine anti-corruption action. It is evidence that strategic disagreement about Taiwan timelines was real, significant, and resolved by elimination rather than persuasion. 4. The resulting military has the same hardware and a dramatically different software. A PLA that reports only good news to its commander about an operation requiring honest worst-case assessment is a PLA with elevated miscalculation risk. 5. Washington can exploit the civil-military fault line, but only indirectly and carefully. The goal is not to encourage defiance of Xi but to make the honest assessment of operational difficulty so unavoidable that even loyalists cannot ignore it in their internal reporting. 6. China faces a fundamental political reform paradox. The reforms required for yuan reserve currency status, full convertibility, rule of law, reduced state intervention, are incompatible with Xi's consolidation of political control. He cannot have both. He has chosen control. 7. The CSIS wargames are not reassuring, but they are not hopeless. In the overwhelming majority of modeled scenarios, Taiwan remains effectively independent, at enormous cost. The deterrence case for continued investment in Taiwan's asymmetric capabilities is supported by the best available simulation evidence. 8. China's domestic vulnerabilities, youth unemployment, property sector collapse, local government debt, private sector retreat, are not peripheral. They are the primary constraints on Chinese strategic ambition. A China managing a domestic economic crisis has fewer resources for external assertion. 9. The $10 trillion cost estimate for a Taiwan conflict is China's most important deterrent, not American military capability. A Chinese leadership that understands it would absorb $2 to $3 trillion in economic losses, face comprehensive sanctions, lose its export markets, and destabilize the domestic social contract that sustains its legitimacy has a powerful self-interested reason to avoid conflict. 10. The most dangerous scenario is not Chinese strength. It is Chinese miscalculation by a leadership that has eliminated the advisors most likely to provide honest worst-case assessment, is receiving optimistic reporting from career-motivated subordinates, and faces domestic pressures that create incentives for external distraction. Final summary, the series in 4 sentences. China is executing a 30-year strategy to build parallel financial, technological, and military infrastructure that reduces its dependence on American-controlled systems, and the strategy is working, slowly, at the margins, in ways that compound silently. The proxy network, Russia, North Korea, Cambodia, Iran, the Arab world, is not random or ideological. Each piece serves a specific function in a patient encirclement strategy designed to close off American options before a direct confrontation. The PLA purges represent the most significant military intelligence development of the decade, creating both a reduced near-term invasion threat, due to capability degradation, and an elevated miscalculation risk, due to the elimination of honest advisors. The path that avoids the worst outcomes runs through sustained American deterrence, allied cohesion, economic supply chain resilience, and the patient exploitation of China's genuine domestic vulnerabilities, not through confrontation, but through the maintenance of costs that make Xi's timeline consistently more expensive than his advisors dare tell him.